Ladies and gentlemen, the superhero leader who gave us the best National Day present ever, the SEA Games KL 2017 champion, Yang Berhormat Brigadier General Khairy Jamaluddin, the floor is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera dan salam negaraku Malaysia. Thank you, Kamarul, for that very generous and kind introduction. Of course, the present that you mentioned was not my doing, but the doing of our fantastic athletes of Malaysia. Yang Amat Berhormat Datuk Seri Diraja Dr. Zamri Abdul Kadir, Menteri Besar of the State of Perak, State Excos, speakers, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Institute Darul Rizwan and the State Government of Perak for inviting me to be the last keynote speaker today at the 4th Pangkor Dialogue. I have been told that this year's dialogue and the festival of ideas that preceded the dialogue has once again succeeded in placing Perak on the map as far as the generation of ideas is concerned. As somebody representing the federal government, I would like to congratulate my good friend, Dr. Zamri, for really being the driving force behind the Pangkor Dialogue. And I can't think of a better state than the great state of Perak for where this dialogue should take place. This is a state which has a modern philosopher king in the person of His Royal Highness Sultan Nazrin, a monarch that not only rules, but also leads by example in terms of his scholarship and his thinking. And Perak is also lucky because it is one of the very, very few states in Malaysia to have a chief executive in the person of the Menteri Besar, the Chief Minister, Dr. Zamri, who himself is a public intellectual who has successfully gone into politics and succeeded as a Menteri Besar. Ladies and gentlemen, for far too long, we have looked at progress through pure growth, including here in Malaysia. Especially measurements like gross domestic product or GDP and other forms of macroeconomic measurements were hardwired into the structure of the global economy, the Malaysian economy, and solidified in our minds as the benchmark for success in the world. The greatest growth always meant the greatest progress measured by GDP. Our obsession towards growth was almost systematic, not just in measuring a country's economy, but it extended to become the yardstick of success for companies, for organizations. It was all about the bottom line. It was all about GDP growth. It was all about how much returns we can generate. For having had a successful year means having the largest, the fastest growth, and the growth measured for is the growth of today, and today only. This was true in Malaysia as well. Our Vision 2020, which was envisioned in 1991, envisioned a country that became a high-income economy based on GDP growth. Even the qualitative side of that target was just a symbol of that obsession for growth. Infrastructure development, investments into our urban cities, economic markers like average income, inflation, were key indicators of how we measured ourselves as a nation, how well we were doing, with the importance of aspects such as decentralization, decision-making, equality, narrowing income disparities, conservation being relegated to a notch under what we felt was important as defining us as a nation. Now, it was, and maybe is still acceptable, for many developing countries to focus on pure growth. But in the day and age of looking beyond present needs, pure growth strategy, concentrating on today and today alone, is no longer enough. The world has moved from aiming for growth today to a sustainable development for tomorrow. We now see this rapid rise of the importance of sustainable development all around us. In 2016, as we all know, the United Nations adopted a set of 17 goals, amongst other things, to end poverty, protect planet Earth, and ensure prosperity for all. These goals covered aspects that were never center stage before for many of us: gender equality, clean energy, equality, renewable consumption, and sustainable production. It's not just governments around the world that are looking at sustainability today. Businesses are being driven by this. Corporations are being driven by how to come up with solutions that look at the future and not just the present. IKEA in 2012 announced its goal to be powered by 100% renewable energy by 2020, has now moved their goalposts even higher, aiming to be a net energy exporter within the same timeline. Yes, the very same place where we buy our furniture. Big financial firms such as BlackRock and Goldman Sachs have defied traditional financial sector norms, providing investment options that factor in environmental, social, and governance elements, these so-called responsible investing. Startups who aim to disrupt also make sustainable development as the problem statement to solve, from Elon Musk's Tesla Model 3, bringing new life to electric vehicle, while Entocycle and the growing army of food sustainability startup aim to build a future without the worry of food insecurity. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not just public relations exercises by companies so that you feel good when you buy their products. These are not just promises by politicians so that we look like we are caring for the future generations. But there is real demand from people around the world, especially the millennials, the young generation that I represent, and that I've learned through the exercise here in Malaysia over the last few months of the National Transformation 2050 project, launched by our Prime Minister in January this year, where we set off a series of national conversation, national dialogues, going down, listening to as many young people as possible, a platform for collecting about 100,000 different detailed aspirations from young Malaysians. Sustainability is the key term that they all agreed upon in building Malaysia towards 2050. If there were 5 words that I could summarize what young Malaysians want to see this country emerge as in 30 years' time, is a country that is sustainable, a country that is competitive because we still have to be ahead, a country that is fair in its distribution, in the opportunities that we provide for every single Malaysian, regardless of the circumstances with which they were born, a country that is united, that is able to rise above parochial divisions and divisions of ethnicity, divisions that were perhaps historical baggages that we carried with us before. And fifth, and something that the last panel spoke of extensively, a country that is happy. A country that is happy, that goes beyond your GDP growth, that goes beyond your markers for inflation, your markers for foreign direct investment, but a country that is happy in the sense that they are content and that they are spiritually nourished and that they are emotionally and also physically secure. When we throw with that the fact that 85% of Malaysia will be urbanized by 2050, the young people don't just want better cities with skyscrapers and great jobs. They don't want to see another KLCC in the center of Ipoh. They want to see cities which are green, that are walkable, that are safe, where you can take a stroll from downtown Kuala Lumpur to the suburbs and you are under the canopy of trees all along the way, where it's safe, where you have sustainable transport, where you have a grid of electricity which is renewable and clean. When I told them that villages will be turned into cities by the year 2050, the young people of Malaysia told us that they want to retain the villages, retain the kampong features, but instead bring amenities that are now only omnipresent in the cities to the villages. In other words, they want the rural areas to retain that rural charm, but have all the modern conveniences of being connected to the modern world. With thousands and thousands of aspirations being gathered in response to global megatrends such as the aging population, food security, the growth of underserved segments, a pattern emerges strongly that we have to find a way to build a future that is sustainable. It is no longer enough for us to strive for growth solely for today. We must have one eye on the present and one eye on the future. Sustainable development is what we must collectively achieve as a country, starting from today. And I think the young Malaysians that are here, as well as the many young Malaysians who I've engaged with, understand that development today must not come at the expense of future generations. And that future generations must not bear the debt that we spend today for development's sake today. This, however, ladies and gentlemen, is not an easy feat to achieve. Being growth-driven and being sustainable can sometimes be contradictory, at least in the short term. It differs from many angles, especially when one answers to the shareholders of today, while the other to the stakeholders of tomorrow, to the future generation. The one thing that can help us straddle that fine line between what we need today and securing the future, or making a better future for tomorrow, is through innovation. Innovation, which at its core, means effecting new ideas in solving existing problems, if embedded thoroughly into a society, can help align the many conflicting wants of the many type of stakeholders for the many contesting timelines today and tomorrow. There are many examples that I can cite. Some of the favorite examples are technology, innovation, changing the transportation landscape. Applications like Grab and other ride-hailing applications have not only built a sustainable business model for their shareholders today, but it also helps in fulfilling a demand for the public, which is in creating a greener future for the society of tomorrow, reducing traffic jams, reducing the need for us to own our own vehicle, ensuring that we maximize resources that are already there. Big corporations and governments all around the world have adopted innovation to solve their respective problems, from flexi hours to allow mothers to stay in the workforce, digitalizing services to increase citizen reach, and much, much more. These are examples of how innovation has created a situation where these considerations, sustainability for the future and also growth for today, are not mutually exclusive. Innovation is not new in Malaysia. For the past few years, we have strived to make institutional and targeted interventions to ensure that Malaysia has the right ecosystem for innovation. And this is part of our responsibility to at least be in line with recent trends. A big portion of our budget every year is earmarked as an investment to spur innovation at the national level. Through both our National Science, Technology and Innovation Policy and National Education Blueprint, Various medium, short-term solutions and policies have been crafted to build the right ecosystem for innovation, while with training its human capital as the core base for us to look into the future. Our recent emphasis on the digital economy also helps in building an ecosystem that is ripe for innovation. This sector today contributes about 16.3% to our GDP, and we want to see this increase to 20% by 2020. And there's heavy investments into ensuring that the digital economy works for our small businesses. In order to harness creativity and innovation, we set up the Malaysian Global Innovation and Creative Center MAGIC. It aims to catalyze the entrepreneurial ecosystems in Malaysia by bringing together the abundant resources from partners and communities to develop entrepreneurs of enduring and high growth startups. Through programs like e-Rezeki and e-Usahawan, we launched this to target key communities like young people, SMEs, digital entrepreneurs from the bottom 40 income bracket with an initial allocation of 100 million ringgit. These initiatives have benefited more than 100,000 Malaysians, including right in the rural heartland of Malaysia. We will also be the first country in the world to introduce the digital free trade zone. For the first time, we will truly be plugged into the world with a physical and virtual zones, facilitated by additional online and digital services to spark international e-commerce and invigorate internet-based innovation. In public service, silos were broken and walls were broken down, where various ministries, agencies, and government-linked companies work together innovatively in offering low-cost, high-impact programs that can rapidly be executed for the people. We have about 111 blue ocean programs that were initiated by the government, where innovation was the core principle. Just to give you an example, a few years ago, we had a big challenge with crime, and the challenge was trying to bring down crimes in our big cities. Now, many people will tell you that the best way to bring down crime is more police on the beat, police omnipresence everywhere. And we had a problem. We had a problem because we had to train 6,000 new policemen within 1 year to get them deployed on the streets to bring down crime, especially in urban centers. But to train 6,000 police personnel, that would have taken years, simply because of the capacity at our police training institutes. Just couldn't cater for the number of policemen that we needed. So that's where innovation came in. Innovation came in where we were able to break down silos, where we looked around the government and realized that perhaps police training centers were not enough. But there were other centers where we could train these future police personnel. So for the first time ever, I don't think many other countries have practiced this. We got the police and the armed forces together and utilized existing armed forces camps to train the police. We were able to do this at low cost, rapid implementation, high impact, and 6,000 police personnel were able to be deployed within 1 year because the police and the armed forces got together, silos were broken down, innovation was the driver in solving a public policy problem. Ladies and gentlemen, with the amount of investment brought in, being allocated for innovation, it is a simplified excuse to say that our inability, our systemic inability, is the reason we are behind the most innovative economies out there. As we fared lower in various scores of innovation, this is an opportune moment for honest reflection here in Malaysia. Chief of which is, we must now accept that we can never be an innovative country if our society is not an innovative society. We also have to accept that top-down strategic intervention is no longer enough. Our former Prime Minister, Tun Abdullah Badawi, once famously said that Malaysia is a country with first world infrastructure, but with, sadly, still third world mentality. That was true then, but it is more relevant now in a world which is racing ahead in innovation. The world is now more ground up, with power devolved from the government to the people, thanks to technology. Governments with third world society and thinking that isn't innovative can no longer catch up with governments with innovation that is driven from the ground up. Hence, through the Pareto principle, 80% effort to achieve 80%, 20% effort to achieve 80% impact with regards to innovation in Malaysia, the key is to shift the mindset of our Malaysians. If there is one thing worthy of intervention in order for us to achieve sustainable development, it is an intervention to achieve a collective shift of mindset amongst us all. I don't have a recipe of what kind of societal mindset builds an innovative mind, but if we take social media as a yardstick of how we think as a society, which it frankly is, then we are fast moving towards the opposing end of an innovative society. Wired magazine and The Guardian recently mentioned the new global trend of how social media has evolved into echo chambers that help propagate hate and is fast tearing us apart. And our society is fast falling into this trap. How something that was supposed to help us connect with friends and families turned into something so toxic and divisive feeds into the old adage that technology is only as good as its users. Social media, which helps bring out our true face as a society, is a reflection of the mindset that we need to collectively change. All day, many of us use social media to fight, not to connect. It showcases our societal norm, not as a caring, peaceful society, but one that shames other people. We no longer strive for an originality in thought, but instead post whatever it is people care about, striving for shares and retweets. We wake up every morning not to share good news or solutions, but to jump and complain about the hottest, trendiest issue of the day to increase our followership. A platform that is supposed to help us channel ideas and exchange of thoughts quickly has become one which is used to bash and shame people. The boldness that is needed to push an innovative idea forward is channeled to criticizing such ideas with no alternative suggestion. While innovators around the world fear of missing out on the opportunities of the digital economy, we fear of missing out on the juiciest gossip of the day. It is not that technology is to be blamed. They only help to bring into life what we truly are as a society. My fear is that we are far behind in becoming a society that creates, that solves problems, that is original, and that is bold, all of which is needed to build a truly innovative and sustainable nation. When Mark Zuckerberg saw that his university mates cannot share whatever they want with their friends, he didn't complain. He created Facebook. Salman Khan thought that education should be free. He didn't just tweet about how ridiculous his education system is. He created the Khan Academy. When Joe and Brian were struggling to pay rent, they didn't just create a shareable meme about how high the cost of living is, but they started Airbnb. I can go on and on about how great innovative ideas of our generation was born, but they all shared the same recipe. They saw a problem and they solved it for a better future. Through the opportunity given to me, I have met our fair share of young Malaysians that are truly innovative. They saw a problem and they worked hard to solve it. People like Zamir from Teach for Malaysia, who works and doesn't whine in trying to make a better education system. People like Faisal Arif, who works and doesn't complain about our immigration system. Ganesh Moran, who aims to provide clean energy to rural communities, to the Orang Asli communities. Louisa, who works hard to protect our nature, and many, many more great young Malaysians who wake up every morning working for a solution to benefit society. They don't merely complain, tweet, Facebook, whine. They innovate for a better future. Now, these are great examples, but you and I know that these examples are not enough. To truly have an innovative country is to have an innovative society with innovative individuals. One cannot be an innovative society if we are made up by individuals that merely propagate and create and share problems and not solve those problems. Hence, this is our greatest challenge for those in this hall today and those outside it, to collectively shift the mindset of our society towards one that is innovative, to one that sees a problem and doesn't see it as a problem, but as an opportunity, for one that sees the problem and sees a solution to that problem. Because if we don't, not only will we not be able to shift from growth towards sustainable growth, but we risk a greater problem. That all the sustainable growth plans that we have created will ring hollow because the society it is supposed to serve is not in itself innovative and sustainable. We risk missing out on the most important element of a sustainable developed country, which is a society with the right mindset. And that brings me back to where I started my speech. If we want to create a society with the right mindset, with the ability to innovate, with the thirst of knowledge, with the humility to know that we do not know everything, with the compassion to understand that people try their best and sometimes they make mistakes, but we're all in this together. Without the contestation of ideas, without the willingness to go out there and learn something new every day and understand that we do not know it all, without the ability to come together and speak and discuss and deliberate in a mature, rational context, then we will not have taken that first step towards innovation. Innovation can only exist on the foundation of ideas and on the foundation of that humility to want to embrace different ideas. And on that score, I believe that a sustainable future, an innovative future, for the state of Perak at least, is very much within your grasp. Because here, you plant the seeds of ideas. You plant the seeds for young people to know that if you want to learn something new, you don't just read a tweet, go and read a book properly. If you want to learn ideas, go and talk to somebody. Don't just forward a WhatsApp message that somebody gave you without checking whether it's true or not. These are the challenges that we face today. These are the challenges that the millennial generation faces. And it's a serious challenge. And I know a little bit about this, being the Minister of Youth for this country. Now, I've painted a picture which is challenging, which is at times pessimistic, but I do believe in the young people of Malaysia. But the guidance must come from leadership like that we've seen in the state of Perak under Dr. Zamri. Thank you, sir. Thank you for... I don't say this because you invited me to speak here today. I say this with deep conviction. Thank you for not reducing politics to a soundbite. Thank you for not reducing politics to a campaign slogan. And thank you for not reducing politics to cheap political point scoring. The business of politics must be about solving problems. And it must also be about inspiring people to also come on board to solve problems. We cannot do it on our own. The era of government knows best, it's over. We must do this together. We are in this together. Together, we are stronger. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much, Yang Berhormat Brigadier General Khairy Jamaluddin. Yes, we know it's the athletes that work, but it's the leader that counts, and that's why we Brigadier General.